Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Randy Phillips, and you're Backstage with Randy Phillips, where we go backstage. You know, you got the people out on front of the stage, you see them, but then we go backstage and we learn things we didn't know. Today, we're going backstage with Pastor Chad Holland from Jerusalem. Yes, Jerusalem. Pastor Chad, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. So happy to be here.
Welcome to Texas.
Well, thank you. Welcome back. For me, I of course, you know the background. I grew up in Houston, so for me, it's a little bit of a homecoming.
How did you get to Israel and pastoring in Jerusalem?
I'm married into a Jewish family. I was adopted by a Jewish believing father.
Okay.
So I grew up in the Messianic Jewish movement, and I was pastoring at a couple of different locations, and the final one was in Memphis, Tennessee. And as we started to have children, and when you're married to a Jewish woman and you have children, those are Jewish babies, right? So the Lord told us both, just in our private devotions, that it was time to start preparing for the family to bring the children home to their homeland, that covenant homeland of Israel for the Jewish children. And once we confirmed that with each other and our eldership and our overseers at the time, we started the journey. It's a couple years it took us to get our citizenship, but we've been citizens 14, 15 years now. And then along the way, I met the founder of King of Kings, Pastor Wayne Hillsden, amazing leader, just incredible, and he was ready to turn things over.
Okay, how big was his congregation at the time? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was about 400 or 500 at the time.
Okay,
and but there were 5 or 6, maybe 7 pieces of other ministries, paraministries that were related. We're at 70 different locations now.
Oh my word.
So the Lord has blessed us, but Wayne was able to establish the first congregation in that early little family circle for which we got to jump forward on.
So you're coming from Houston, Texas, and thank God for Texas. When you landed in this place and thought seriously about pastoring here, it must have been so overwhelming. I can't even imagine. I think like somebody from the north, in America coming to the South, what all they have, all the nuances of that. I think of people coming from a different country to America to pastor a church here. A lot of friends of mine come in from, all over the world to pastor, and the learning curve is so steep. But I can't even imagine what it must have been like for you, a Texan. Mm-hmm. The learning curve to live in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Was that overwhelming?
Partially. Again, because I grew up in a Jewish home, and I grew up in synagogue and in Messianic circles and pastored in those same circles, there was a lot to the religious side, to the worship side, to the culture that revolves around the Torah and God. I was already familiar with all that, so that wasn't a surprise. I also, by God's grace, I didn't start at zero with my Hebrew.
Okay.
Now, my Hebrew's not great, but I didn't start at zero, and I keep improving. Some of the things that were the early hurdles for me, culturally, let's say, was coming from Texas. We're a friendly people.
Yeah, we are.
It doesn't always work the same way over in Israel. So I had to learn that, Shalom, y'all didn't work on everybody.
Shalom, y'all.
And then the other thing was I really didn't understand that while most of the citizenship of Israel is either Jewish by birth, and they can prove it, or they were grandfathered in as Arabs who were already there and they live as free citizens in Israel. What I didn't understand was a lot of people identify as Israeli more than they identify as Jewish, even though they are both. And I didn't really understand the distinction between that. And so I had to interview lots of people to understand, what do you mean Israeli? Aren't you Jewish? Yes, I'm Jewish, but my Israeliness is more important to me right now. And that is because of the demographics of people who are secular and they don't have any belief system.
Which shocked me, because you told me, off camera, that 70% of Israel does not believe in any God.
Right.
No God at all.
That's right.
They're agnostic.
You got it.
Or atheists.
They consider themselves secular. Do they occasionally pray or celebrate something because it's in the Jewish culture? Yeah, they might. Just like someone might go to, Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
At church. But that doesn't mean they're following the Lord.
No, it doesn't.
So that would be kind of how we would define that.
But when I'm just thinking through the lens of Scripture and growing up in church, you always heard about Israel, pray for Israel, the peace of Jerusalem. And you just think, well, Israel is serving the Lord. But it's shocking for a Western mind over here, particularly in Texas, that 7 out of 10 people do not believe in God.
Anything.
And then the 30%, it's nuanced a little bit, but mostly Orthodox.
Yeah, they're mostly, we would say Orthodox, modern Orthodox, but
that's the
practicing.
black curls.
Yeah, you'll see the curls, the hat, the black,
That's
and then
Orthodox.
different variations of the same thing, but it's variations. But 30% of the country is Orthodox. Yeah,
which means they believe in Jehovah God.
Yep.
But have not accepted Jesus Christ.
Right. They're in some sense they're pretty close to kind of our journey in the sense that they believe in one God, they believe in the Torah, the commandments of God, they believe in a Messiah, they're waiting for the Messiah, they believe in the prophets. They just don't feel or they don't logically put together that Jesus, Yeshua, we call him Yeshua in Israel, that he is the fulfillment of that messianic figure that was prophesied, and he is the atonement. They can't quite get to that point.
Yeah.
But in terms of worship, their Judeo-Christian ethic, their morality, it can be quite high.
Okay. When I came to your church, King of Kings Church in Jerusalem. Right. What a great thing that was. I brought about 150 of our people from Texas. Time. Oh, it was so much fun. And your church was so welcoming, so wonderful. Presence of God was so strong. But I didn't realize till you told me that you don't get a lot of pushback from the 7 out of 10 that don't believe in God.
Right.
The pushback you get, and actually threats, are from that Orthodox 30%.
Right.
What is that about? Is it similar to what was happening in Book of Acts and where they thought they were persecuting people because they thought they were disruptive of what they'd been taught?
What we're seeing today is similar to what you see in the New Testament scriptures, and it's that Jewish believers in Yeshua are a threat to the establishment of control of the Orthodox Jewish society.
Okay.
And so you see it in the New Testament too. I mean, the Romans didn't so much care about Jesus. He wasn't a threat to the Roman Empire. But to the Jewish religious institution, he was a major threat.
Major.
And I think that's what is felt today is understanding the Jewish roots of faith, understanding Yeshua as the Jewish Messiah. That is a big threat to the Orthodox community.
And you've had threats?
We've had lots of threats.
And you've been personally threatened?
Yeah, we've been persecuted, threatened, violently, beat, pepper sprayed. They've tried to ruin sanctuaries. And they don't want it on film, so they ruin cameras first, and then they go in. So it clearly shows me they do a little background homework before they attack. And it's happened several times all over the country at different campuses that we have. And then on a smaller scale, we do get persecution from the Islamic community as well, because we have 2 Arabic ministries, one including a great congregation that is located in, we call it Judea Samaria. A lot of the world calls it West Bank. Yeah. And they get a lot of persecution from the Islamic community.
Wow. Have you ever watched your child struggle with making the right choice? I know I have, and that's one of the reasons I wrote Guppy and the Silvery Hook. It started as a story I used to tell my daughters at bedtime, and now I share it with my grandkids. It's about Guppy, a curious little fish who has to learn the importance of listening, trusting, and making wise choices when temptation comes swimming his way. The story is fun, beautifully illustrated, and your kids will love it. But even more, it opens the door for important conversations between you and your children. Conversations about wisdom, trust, and learning from mistakes. I'd love for you to experience Guppy and the Silvery Hook with your family. You can grab your copy today on Amazon. Start a storytime tradition your kids will remember, and one that points them toward making wise choices for life. The eyes of the world have been on the war of Gaza. What happened on October 7th broke all of our hearts. I think everyone in the world, at least on publicly or on camera, was like, Israel we're so brokenhearted for you. Go, do what you need to do. Think the whole world was with you. And then as the thing started to unfold, and the bombings and the casualties, of course, those statistics come from Hamas.
Correct.
So I'm not sure how accurate they are, but probably there's been a lot of loss of life. And the kids, they keep showing pictures of the kids, which is heartbreaking. Yeah. But with that, the view of the world started to turn. Sure. And now you find yourself pretty isolated. Mm-hmm. Even America, I mean, we're still with you. But, there's people in my congregation that just we don't stand with Israel because of the bloodshed. How do you, as a Jewish man, a pastor, how do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah, and it's tough because you do have to understand that there's a covenant element here of the promised land of Israel and the calling of the Jewish people to be a royal priesthood and a holy nation. But that doesn't mean they're going to get it right all the time, especially when you're being led by a secular government who doesn't believe in the Bible. Of course, they're not going to get it right, but it doesn't negate the calling of God. And I'm asking our church family, our believers, to try to understand the difference between a covenant connection to Israel and what they will do in the end, because God has called them to do it, to be a light to the nations. And I believe the last great revival of the age, Romans 11, will happen through Israel, just like it did in Acts 2.
Yes.
So if we're a missions-minded people, we believe in that. We need to separate that component from the nationalistic side of Israel as a modern state, and we don't have to love everything they choose to do.
Right.
I don't love everything they choose to do, and I certainly have my choice when I vote, and I vote according to my principles as best as I can. So that can be challenging. The other thing that can be challenging and a little bit frustrating to me as an Israeli, if I can say, is it's one thing to win the war on the ground because you're a superior military, but Israel really lost this war in the media.
Yes.
We have some funny thoughts on that, or strange thoughts, like Israel is so precise that we can destroy the Iranian nuclear program in 12 days. We can hit 7 Hamas high-level leaders in a different country of Qatar without hurting anyone else in the building. But when it comes to Hamas, we've not been able to kill one soldier. Right? Because all they'll tell you is how many women and children died.
Yes.
We didn't hit any soldiers.
Right.
So when the crazy numbers that come out of Hamas, and the world just swallows it as if it's truth, and it's so far from the truth.
Yes.
There's never been another military in modern history that does what Israel does to protect people. And this is what I need our church family to understand. What we do as soldiers when they go in is we broadcast on the radio, leave, we're coming, we're trying to get Hamas out. The Gazans are the ones who called us. Come help us get free of Hamas. Wow. When they say free Palestine, we say amen. We're trying from Hamas to stop killing all the Gazans, right? So we drop leaflets, we take cell phone text, and then we send the soldiers door to door trying to save every life possible. But of course, that doesn't make it to the news. What makes it to the news is Israel kills women and children, which is a lie. And all of a sudden, Israel, as good as we are, we're not even able to kill one Hamas soldier.
Isn't that
right?
something?
Isn't that funny?
Your son is 16.
Yes, sir.
And you said he was drafted into the Army.
That's right.
People may not know in America, the draft hasn't been part of our world and in our country for a long time. It is not, you don't voluntarily go into the military, you're drafted. At what age does that start? And it's different from boys and girls, men and women.
It used to be different, boys and girls.
Oh, it's not?
It's not. The empowerment of women movement got what they wanted, which was equality.
Wow.
So now it's no longer different. It's 2.5 years minimum service for male and female. You can choose to go into officer school after that. You will be deployed. Every person that's been enlisted in the last 20 years has already been in a war. So it's the high probability you will be in some kind of military operation. And I think that as parents, that puts us on our knees and breaks our heart and for all of our kids. But they draft them at 16. They start their training and their testing as they get into their 17th year, that final year, senior year of high school. And when they graduate, I think they get a couple of months off before they report to base at 18.
How does that feel as a father?
I think because the gifts that God gave me, I'm a little bit more of a fighter
Yeah.
Just in my spirit, I'm a fighter. I may be a different pastor than some pastors that are more shepherding pastors. I'm the pastor who goes and beats those wolves down, you know?
Yeah.
So I got that fighting spirit. So between me and my son and all my daughters who are also going to have to serve, we got a little bit more fight in us. I think for Rebecca, my wife, she's not a fan of this. She doesn't want any part of that. She wants to, is there a way we can get him out? You know?
Yeah.
And I say, look, don't do that, because in Israel, the way you get into the society of relationship is through your camaraderie in the army.
My goodness. I've got a 23-year-old daughter, and to think she would have served in the military. When I've gone over to Israel to take our wonderful people to see your country, I see these kids with machine guns.
Right.
They look like kids.
They are kids.
Like they can't even shave. They have no stubble. And they got machine guns strapped around them.
Our country is really defended by 18 and 19-year-olds.
Whoa.
That's really the demographic there. And then in Israel, you are eligible for reserve duty up until age 55.
My goodness.
So, in our congregations, all of our campuses, anytime there's a call up, you lose half the congregation. Just because they went to Gaza or they went to Lebanon or Syria or West Bank or wherever. So we're in a constant state of flux and support, trying to support wives who got left behind with children. Hopefully no one gets hurt. By God's grace, we haven't had anyone, not one soldier hurt from all of our campuses. I think because we bathe them in prayer all the time.
Thank the Lord.
But yeah, you could lose... you could lose a drummer, a guitarist, you could lose a cameraman, you could lose a children's worker at moment's notice and have to kind of switch real quick about who's going to fill in that open role.
My goodness. What happened? We've got a glimpse into, to live with the pressure of an existential threat every day must be so wearying. Here in America, there's craziness that happens. There's church violence on occasion. There's this or that. But on the whole, we feel pretty safe here. But in Israel, there is an existential threat every day.
Right.
What's coming today?
Right.
And it's just, does that wear on you? Or do you just reach a point where it's just, hey, this is what it means to live here, and how do you deal with that mentally?
If I could be honest, I think it comes and goes a little bit. Like there are days where it's just normal and you're like, yeah, we got to do this again. I got to run back to the bomb shelter, grab my kids, everything. And then there's other days where, I had one of these not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago. It was about 1 a.m. The Houthis out of Yemen fired, Hamas fired out of Gaza. You got missiles coming, you got drones coming. The terrorists tried to break the border again. A lot of stuff they won't tell you on the news, right? It's just all about the propaganda. But this was happening at 1 a.m. and we had to go get the kids and get everybody downstairs into the basement. And my kids just acted like it was regular day.
Okay.
And at that moment, I was proud of them, but I was sad for us as a family, because I said, it's sad that kids have to grow up and this becomes their normal.
Yeah.
So I do kind of go back and forth emotionally with it.
We pray for you often.
Thank you. We feel it.
Our church considers you a friend. Your church we financially have sent funds to you, but we pray for you often. Pastor Chad, you're an amazing man. How do you even begin? So here in Austin, about 60% do not have any kind of religious affiliation, don't go to church. So it's somewhere 40 or less people that actually go to church. And of that's nuanced of how many are Jesus followers and something else. So I kind of know how to speak here in Texas. I know how to speak to the unbeliever.
Sure.
I know what angle to take. In Israel and in Jerusalem, yours is so different. How would you talk to first an Orthodox Jew, and then how do you talk to a secular Jew about Jesus?
Yeah. So right now there's about 9.75 million Israeli citizens. And that's 2.1 million Arabs, and then Jews, and then the other tribes that we call the Druze, and then other immigrants. And of that 9.75 million, there's only about 22,000 believers.
Wait, say that again?
9.75 million citizens, there's 22,000 believers. It's 1/5 of 1%
That's staggering.
that believe in Jesus. So the way we minister to them is we look for needs and opportunities. There's plenty of challenges, but needs and opportunities. So what are the most prominent things we're finding that are hurtful to people? Let's help them there. We're a country of immigrants, right? We're the whole country just moved there within the last 100 years. So it's immigration is a big thing. So if you can help them ease that process somehow, and we have lots of ways to do it through food banks and hot meals and appliances and whatnot, that meets an immediate need, which opens a relationship door.
Okay.
You might, we have feeding centers. We have our music school is a big way we open doors, getting people in that as well. And then we have prayer centers all around the country where people who are just desperate. They're out of money. They don't have a job. We have a real, our job market is so tough right now during war. So for us, what we're trying to do is we're not real big on the street evangelism and the broadcast on TV, because that just leads to more persecution.
Yes.
What seems to work in our environment is more meet the need of the people. It's a little bit like you see in the New Testament scriptures. Right. It's like Yeshua's going to heal that person and then talk to them. He's going to feed the crowd and then talk to them.
Yes.
He's going to raise that person from the dead and then talk to their family.
Yes.
If you can meet the immediate need, the heart generally opens much, much faster where we are. But if you flip that into an Orthodox situation who may not have a lot of needs, I like to go the route of, some people like to go, well, where's the temple and where's the priest and all that stuff? And don't you see that in Yeshua? And you can go that route. But I haven't found that route effective. What I found more effective is I go through the Old Testament only scriptures and I show them every time Jesus shows up in the Old Testament. Who was walking in the garden with Adam?
Yeah.
Who went and met Abraham for lunch and they called him Adonai the Lord? Who was in the fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? And all the eyewitnesses said it looked like God was in there. Who wrestled with Jacob? He said it was God.
Yes.
Who did Joshua see as the commander of the Lord of hosts? Well, he said it was God. And when I confront the religious people with it and I said, who do you think it is? They always give me some bizarre answer that the rabbi told them. It's an angel, it's a messenger, whatever.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but the eyewitness said it was God. So let's get this straight. Do you believe your rabbi who was not there, or do you believe the patriarch who was there and said this was God? And that's usually the one that sparks the most. Okay, I'm going to go think about this, or I'm going to go talk to my rabbi, or whatever the response is.
Oh, that's good. I love that. You have an incredible calling. I love you, Pastor Chad.
Thank you,
You're such
Pastor
a
Randy.
great man. I love your churches. And here in Austin, and I would encourage you all over the country, all over the world, to support this great man and his church, King of Kings in Jerusalem and all over Israel. You can do that by just going to his website. Your website is what? King of Kings?
That's right. KKM.network. KKM.network.
KKM.network.
You got it.
That's a great thing. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
Randy.
And I've learned so much, and I hope you'll come back to see us.
Great to be backstage with you.
All right. Bye-bye.